was going to ask this.
I would like to add more. Like, I want to replace.
Yeah.
That was like one of
four.
the best Middletown days.
It was
We've had,
like right
20
before-
years.
Don't think-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that, did he pull off the one right before in 2020?
No.
G and H.
No, he had to
It
cancel.
was like 2 days before.
It was
COVID.
on St.
Glad
Patrick's
you
Day.
raised that, 'cause I had the
Remember,
same
we were
comment.
open and there was like
It's
nobody
very
there
developable.
and they were talking about it. They're like,
Giving-
yeah, I think we
Background,
shut everything
how we
From
down.
who? From Chriselle?
We shut everything down.
I'd like to call to order the Middletown City Council meeting for Tuesday, March 1st, 2022. We can start with a moment of meditation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Jenkins, will you please call the roll for us this evening?
Mr. Farrell,
Here.
Ms. Nenny,
Here.
Mr. Moon,
Here.
Mr. Meterspaugh,
Here.
Mayor Condrey.
Here. And this evening, we're starting with a public hearing regarding the draft fiscal year 2022-23 CDBG Annual Action Plan for Middletown.
Good evening. My name is Mindy Muller, and I'm with Community Development Professionals, and I'm going to talk you through the annual action plan for Community Development Block Grant. That will start May 1st and run through April of next year. Just a little bit of a background. The city receives every year an annual allocation of funds from HUD to be used for community development activities. The funds have to align to any city plan that's been put into place, as well as HUD's purpose, which is to create strong, sustainable, inclusive communities and affordable housing. CDBG can be used for a wide range of community development needs. The expected award for 22-23 is $675,975. The city also receives an allocation of what's called home funds, which are funds specifically to create affordable housing. And the expected amount for this next year is $326,505. So I'm going to start with CDBG, a little bit of explanation about that. HUD gives these funds and has a lot of strings attached to those dollars. One of the strings attached is that it has to meet a national objective, every activity or program funded with CDBG dollars. The national objectives laid out by HUD, one is to benefit low and moderate income households, prevent slums or blight, and then the third is to address urgent community needs. CDBG has to be used for eligible spending activities, so those have to comply with all federal spending requirements, as well as all HUD requirements, as well as all CDBG-related requirements that HUD puts on us. So it has to be used for eligible activities that meet all of those. And not less than 70% of that spending has to benefit low and moderate income persons. So it's one of the things that we're looking for as we administer those dollars. Home funds is a separate allocation of funding that comes down from HUD, but goes to Butler County. You're in a consortium with Butler County. So Middletown and Butler County have an agreement. Those funds come through Butler County and out to the Middletown community. And those are really around affordable housing activities. And you can see some of those that are included in that list. Rehab of owner-occupied housing, assistance to home buyers, acquisition, rehab, and construction of rental housing, or tenant-based rental assistance. All home dollars have to benefit low and moderate income households. So there's a planning process for these dollars that we do every 5 years. It's a 5-year plan that's developed. The last plan that we developed was in 2020, and that covers the 2020 to 25 period. Every year then, we do an annual action plan where we come and talk about what we want to allocate those dollars for in the coming year. We are now entering year 3 of that action plan, which starts May 1 again and ends April 30th of next year. So as part of the HUD mandates, we have to do a citizen participation portion, and that's why we do a public hearing, one of the reasons. When we do the 5-year plan, there's a very extensive period that we talk to people. We have a process by that. We do focus groups and interviews and all of those things to develop the 5-year plan. During the annual action plan periods, we have a couple of ways that citizens can give us feedback. One is the subrecipient application process, which I'll walk through in a minute. Another is to have a 30-day comment period where they can look at the recommended plan and give comments, and then also they're invited to participate in these public hearings and give comment. All written comments or oral comments at the public hearing, we will address. And so if there are comments that come in, we are required to let HUD know what those are, and we have to address those. The copies of the plan are made available at the city. If they want to come and look at the plan here, they can do that. It's also available for download on the city's website. So there are some priorities that are outlined in our 5-year plan, and I'm just going to briefly walk through those. This is coming from Housing and Urban Development, so affordable housing is always going to be a priority with these dollars, and I outline there again some of the housing activities that could be considered under that priority. The second priority is workforce development, and again, these priorities are established by these conversations and the public comment that we had when we did the 5-year plan. These are what rose to the top as the highest concerns for the community. So housing activities, workforce development, fair housing activities, youth activities and centers, social service activities were identified as a priority, specifically around issues of mental health and substance use treatment, a removal of blight, beautification, physical improvements like street resurfacing, park improvements, and also focusing on LMI neighborhoods to make those more livable spaces. So when the city gets this expected allocation of funds, the community is invited to participate. Nonprofits are invited the opportunity to come alongside the city and provide services that help the city meet its goals. And so there's a request for proposal that is sent out. This year's request was sent out on November 7th. We publicized that was available through social media, on the city's website, and through a legal ad in the paper. November 7th and 14th is when that was advertised in the paper. And we also sent an email out to the nonprofits that we have a running list of local nonprofits, and they're provided that way as well. Applications were due on January 7th of this year. So there were 9 subrecipient proposals received, so 9 different projects that were submitted, totaling $587,440. We're recommending 7 activities be included in next year's plan out of those 9. So these are the specific requests that were submitted. CBI submitted 2 project requests, one for workforce development and one for youth activities. HOME, which is Housing Opportunities Made Equal, is a nonprofit in Cincinnati, not to be confused with the HOME funding source. It's a separate nonprofit. They do fair housing activities. People working cooperatively, legal aid, SELF, Central Connections, Freya's Hen House, and 3R Development. They all submitted requests for proposal. The recommended activities that we're putting forth for your consideration I kind of laid out where they were in terms of the priority areas, focusing on low and moderate income neighborhoods and continuing emergency home repair. We're recommending SELF and PWC be funded at the requested amounts. There's support for affordable housing, which would be both home dollars that will be allocated as well as some CDBG funds to be set aside to help future affordable housing development. We are recommending that we continue the fair housing activities, both funding home and legal aid at the requested amounts. Community youth activities are being recommended at the $35,000 level, which is slightly lower than what they requested. Workforce development at the full request of CBI at $40,000. So this is where the budget ends up in terms of the recommendations moving forward. You can see how the numbers kind of align with what's being expected to be allocated. So I'll entertain, I know it's a lot of information, a lot of numbers, entertain any questions that you might have about any of that process or
Does the
specifics.
do away with is down payment assistance under this grant?
It comes under home is where we've usually spent that.
So which of the proposals were denied?
So there were two projects that were not recommended to move forward. One was Freya's and the other was 3R Development.
Okay, and can you go into what they were and why they didn't meet the threshold?
Sure. I'll start with 3R Development. It was an application that was fairly broad. They had not real specific ideas about how those funds would be allocated, but it was a general request for funding a lot of the different programs that they hope to put into place, and some things that they have had some history doing. The two areas that specifically met the city's priorities were workforce development and the youth center. And we felt like CBI was a stronger proposal and more specific, and it would have been duplicative to have funded both of those. The request also was for, I think, $104,000, and there's a very limited threshold. We can only use 15% of the CDBG funds for public services, and so that one request would have eaten up that entirety of that money. So that was the reason for 3R Development and not recommending them for funding. Freya's Hen House, we have some things that are required that HUD requires us to have in the application process. Things like the board list, we have to have financials, they have to be able to demonstrate capacity. And so we did work to get some of the required documents from them, but we never did get the financial statements. So they really weren't showing that first threshold of eligibility. I have talked with Erica, particularly since then, with some of the things with the warming center, and I think we can work towards developing some capacity, but there's just not a real strong infrastructure yet with the nonprofit. And the project that they put in for, while it does help with some of the affordable housing priority, there's a lot of additional regulations when you talk about public facilities, like being able to meet Section 3 requirements and prevailing wage, and it's a very complicated kind of project to do with federal dollars, and there weren't a lot of other funds that were being used to support that project. So I think it was mostly just a capacity issue in terms of the infrastructure just not being completely developed out. So that was the reason that the recommendations came forward that way.
Thank you.
Other questions I can answer for you? Okay,
Great.
thank you.
That will open our public hearing. So if we have anyone who wants to comment in favor of the proposed action CDBG annual action plan, the draft fiscal year 2022-23, please come up to the dais and state your name and address for the record. Anyone in favor? Seeing no one moving towards the dais in favor, do we have anyone who'd like to speak in opposition? Okay. That officially closes our public hearing, and we will move on to citizen comments. I'm going to start this evening with asking council, technically, citizen comment cards are closed at the beginning of the meeting. We received quite a few after. I just want to ask my fellow council members if you're willing to consider these. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that we received afterwards. We have 5 prior. I don't know if we need to put it, it's not really a votable item, but do you guys feel as though you?
I'm with it. Yeah.
Okay, great. I definitely want to encourage people to turn them in before the meeting. It's very distracting as we get going. I know I found myself not listening to part of the public hearing, so please, if you guys can get those in beforehand, that's very much appreciated. Okay, so we have 10 total this evening. The first individual we have is Jeff Payne. If you want to come up and state your name and address for the record. And following Jeff Payne, we have Kathy Stites. We'll have 3 minutes for everyone, and we'll be happy to hear from you.
Good evening, Mayor and members of
Middletown City Council. I'm the Executive Director for Downtown Middletown, Inc. In 2021, the DMI Board of Directors, our committees, partnering organizations.
Can you state your name and address
I'm
for the
sorry.
record? Sorry, I need it from
Forgive me.
everybody.
Jeff Payne, Downtown Middletown, Inc., 1050 Central Avenue.
Thank you.
Okay. Can I start over? I'll just continue there. In 2021, the DMI Board of Directors, our committees, partnering organizations, and many volunteers hosted many events that were free and open to the public, and these brought in nearly 12,000 people downtown. I want to go on record to note that DMI was and is a supporter of the 2021 Holiday Hoopla event. DMI provided support in a number of ways. We provided access to our webpage, as well as media support and financial support. The DMI board supported this event because its purpose was consistent with one of DMI's primary objectives of making our downtown a destination. We believe that any event that brings people into our downtown creates an opportunity for our businesses to make money and our city to succeed. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
Next, we have Kathy Stites, followed by Gary Ratliff.
Hello, I'm Kathy Stites, 374 Yankee Road, Monroe. I just came here because I wanted you to know what's happening on the 19th and 20th of this month. We have Middletown Spring Blast Soccer Tournament. Right now, we have 129 rooms in Middletown that are being sold out. We have a total of 700 rooms throughout Cincinnati, Dayton, and Middletown taken up. We have 184 teams coming to town, roughly around 7,000 visitors in our town that weekend, and with the economic impact to the area of 1.6 million. So we're very excited to have all of our teams come back, you know, with a year like last year or year before. We're excited to have everyone back, and I just wanted to come here and make sure you guys know what's going on. So if you have any questions.
Thank you very much. It's exciting. I'm really grateful for all the effort you guys have put in.
Yeah. We also have a tournament in September where we have usually about 140 teams. This tournament ranges anywhere from 180 to, we've had as many as 300. You know, so our police department knows about that and everybody coming in the restaurants. We just want them to know because they'll be using the restaurants in between the areas of times of games and everything.
Which parks are
Just Smith. Just Smith, and we'll have 25 fields set up.
great?
And yeah, lots of traffic and stuff going on, but it's a fun weekend. All right, just pray for no rain. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Kathy.
Next, we have Gary Ratliff, followed by Sharon Flegel.
Hello. Oh, that was loud. Sorry, I'm a little nervous.
Can you state your name and address for the record for us?
My name is Gary Ratliff. I am not a resident of Middletown, but I am the clinical director at the Mindful Healing Center, which is part of Freya Enterprises. And
An address for that.
I'm sorry, 1215 First Avenue, Middletown, Ohio. And again, I'm the clinical director over there. A little bit just about my background. I'm just to put a little bit out there, and I debated if I was going to say this or not, but person in long-term recovery, also independently licensed social worker and chemical dependency counselor, and I'm here to speak on Jessica and Erica's behalf as well as our agency's behalf. I was recently made aware of the fact that the Freya's Hen House would not be recommended for review by the City Council today for the Community Block Grant. And I'm curious to why our application has been overlooked. Some of that was answered kind of today. The financial stuff, I'm a clinical director. I don't do money. I do clinical interventions to help people get clean and change their lives. That's not my forte. But anyway, As some of you know, we started a nonprofit business based out of Middletown that offers mental health and substance use services. And we also started a nonprofit that helps house those clients within that treatment center. That helps house most of our clients. Otherwise, they would be homeless. This is imperative to the effectiveness of our clinical interventions provided and the progress of these individuals. We have agreed to offer our building management, staff, and volunteers to the warming center as a sign of good faith in hopes to work with the city moving forward. To my surprise, we're still being met with such resistance. We have purchased 4 buildings in Middletown that have been ran down for years. We have spent hundreds of thousands of our own dollars foregoing paychecks for 3 years. You will never find owners with more dedication in this industry than us. You will never find owners that genuinely care about the community and our vision as much as Jessica and Erica, and I will personally vouch for that. The services we offer and are needed in the community and are uniquely important to battling homelessness, crime, poverty, and transgenerational curses. Without a holistic approach, clinical efforts are ineffective. We were asking for this money in hopes to prolong, to fund our mission, our vision, and what we are trying to do. But the most important, I think, for what we are trying to do with the substance use, mental health, and we have other things that we're working on, it's definitely great for the community, and there's a huge need, and our holistic approach is much needed. Giving someone who experiences homelessness a house is not going to fix the problem. Giving someone money is not going to fix the issue of whatever they need. Basically, getting at the core of what the problems are.
3-minute mark, and
I know, and I've never done this
I have my own
before.
timer that I disagreed with and up on the screen, so that's why I gave him the extra time.
But I do want to thank you for your time, and that did kind of answer some questions, or I guess give me more questions. But from a clinical standpoint, from a community standpoint, I would highly recommend that we move forward with that. But thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. Appreciate it. Next, we have Sharon Flagel, followed by Chris Kringle.
Sharon Flagel, 5010 Oakview Drive, Middletown. I just would like to read a few of the positive comments that we saw on Facebook. There were over 1,200 of them about the holiday hoopla. I think you all did a great job for the downtown area and city. It was nice to see the lights and people downtown. I hope and pray that next year it just grows bigger and more. I think it's wonderful. I wish there was a way to keep the ice rink year-round. Thank you for your hard work and desire to help Middletown be something positive and fun. It was great. Merry Christmas to you all. Thanks for bringing such a magical, fun experience to Middletown this year. We all enjoyed it. You did a great and wonderful job bringing people to the downtown area. Thank you to all who were involved. My kids absolutely loved this. Thank you. So much work has gone into this event. I'm beyond grateful for those who believe in our community. Keep up the good work, and hopefully you have plans to expand next year. This is one of the nicest things that's happened in our city in quite a while. Looks like it's been a huge success. We came from out of town to enjoy this with our grandkids. Such a fun time. And it went on and on and on, and it was wonderful. I would just like to add a few other thoughts. I've been in Middletown for 55 years. My husband, who died 7 years ago, was here, was born and raised here. He had a business for over 50 years. We had 4 kids, go through the Middletown school system, graduated from Middletown High School. We were always proud to say Middletown was home. as was everybody in Middletown back then. But after working on the holiday hoopla, I see it's time to stop talking about the old Middletown and start talking about the new Middletown. And I truly believe that the holiday hoopla was a great start to a new Middletown. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Chris Kringle, followed by Detective Jason Wargo.
I just gotta say, this is awesome. Chris Kringle, I'm from the North Pole. I was sent here tonight by my good friend Rusty Holland, who lives at 6675 Franklin Madison Road in Middletown.
Thank you.
He likes Christmas just as much as I do. Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council. I'm here because I had the privilege of witnessing the magic of the holidays right here in Middletown this past November and December. I was extremely impressed with the holiday spirit the city shared with its citizens, as well as those visiting from out of town. Middletown is truly a Christmas city, with all the fabulous lights, holiday activities, and the beautiful ice rink bringing friends and families together, making lasting memories, and sharing in the joy of the season. I deeply enjoyed talking with the children and their families when they came to get pictures with me at the Middletown Holiday Hoopla. It warmed my heart to see all of the smiling faces on the ice skaters at the Hoopla ice rink. I could actually see their faces. They weren't buried in their phones or their iPads or tablets or anything. They're actually having fun with their family. The Middletown Holiday Hoopla is an epitome of holiday spirit. Holiday spirit is something we should strive to have all year long. It's a time when love of our fellow man prevails and our actions and thoughts turn toward helping and serving others. The Middletown Holiday Hoopla Committee showed this holiday spirit by giving selflessly of their time and money, not because it benefited them in any way, but because this project would help the local small businesses and build Middletown community pride. The pandemic was devastating to individual connections as well as local businesses, and this community building project came just in time to bring people together to address both of these issues. It's my understanding that you are voting tonight on whether or not to support the Holiday Hoopla revitalization project. A yes vote is a vote for a selfless, others-focused holiday spirit that is so apparent in this Christmas city, with the Holiday Hoopla, Light Up Middletown, Santa Parade, and so many other fabulous holiday activities in this area. A no vote? I can't say it will, but it could land you on a naughty list. So, I know you all do the right thing and keep the holiday spirit alive and well in Middletown. I hope to see you all next year at the Middletown Holiday Hoopla.
Thank you. Next, we have Detective Jason Wargo, followed by Anna. And I'm going to let her pronounce her own last name.
My vote is yes, Chris Kringle. I'm on the good list. Detective Jason Wargo. I'm the president of the Middletown Police Officers Union. My question tonight is about ARPA funds. We keep hearing that there's funds set aside for first responders for premium pay, and I was just wondering if first responders are going to receive this pay, and if so, how much and when that would happen, if we know.
Thank you. I'll let Mr. Palaniuk address that maybe in his city manager report, because I think he's got an answer for you on that.
Okay.
If that's appropriate. Does that sound okay with everybody?
Yeah.
Fine. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to make a note of that before we move on. Okay, next we have Anna, and followed by Karen Richardson.
Anna Derbogosian. I'm married to a good man.
And can you state your address for the record?
Sure. It's 4390 Watoga Drive in Liberty Township. I thought by getting here a little late with a bunch of children, you'd let me go last. So, never done this before. So I wrote it down. Let's see, I already told you my name. And you probably, all right, already speaking in public, not my favorite thing to do, but it does attest to my total support of Avon Kaiser and the holiday hoopla. We personally brought a large group of friends and family with us to the hoopla. We had 8 adults and 8 kids, 16 altogether. We really didn't have any idea what to expect. What we did find was an entertainment destination with activities for each of us to enjoy. So many times, a lot of the events we go to are geared exclusively to either kids or adults. This had something for everyone to enjoy. The youngest in our group made glass ornaments. They sat with Santa. They met Elsa. Our middle guys right there loved ice skating. For 2 hours, my son ice skated, even after he fell and hit his head pretty hard. And he asked every single day after if he could come back and go ice skating again. Loved it. And the older ones, us, we met for the first time the owners of the White Dog Distillery. That was amazing. That was a lot of fun. We ran down there, brought some drinks over, and sat in one of the igloos. Truly, all of us had a great time. The biggest part of this, though, and I'm off script here, the biggest part is I've never hung out in Middletown before. I'm not from here. I've lived here about 12 years. We've never had an interest or reason to come. And after that, since then, we've actually been back 3 more times because of our introduction to it. We went to the Combs barbecue. We checked out the Jug. We went to back to White Dog. But anyway, it's been amazing. I guess. See how much time? I guess. Oh, and Miss Jade's. We went there last week for dinner. This event just really opened our eyes to it. I would hate to see it not brought back next year. And honestly, you could not have a better group of people, a finer group of people who have so much passion and are so willing to give up their entire selves for this and for Middletown. And I just truly hope that you'll consider supporting it again next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Karen Richardson, followed by John Langhorn.
Hello, Madam Mayor and Council. I just wanted to thank all of you.
Can you state your name and address for the record?
Karen Richardson, 2618 Fleming Road.
Thank you.
I just wanted to first of all thank all of you for your service to the city and allowing me the time to speak in front of council. For those of you that don't know, my husband and I own Babs over on Carmody. And additionally, for those of you that don't know, this was not something that was a well thought out over a long period of time venture that we decided to do. It was a very spur of the moment opportunity presented itself and a split decision had to be made. And we, for some reason, decided to turn a car wash into a destination venue with kayaking and food and entertainment and spirits. I'm already off my notes here, so I'll just kind of ad-lib a little bit. We've put a lot into that business. We made a very quick decision. Looking back, we could have done a lot of things different, but we saw a vision. We saw something that we thought would be beneficial to the city. We felt that it would become a destination for people outside of the city. And we actually saw that the first year that we were open for kayaking as we built our kitchen using the funds from the kayaking to do so. We had, of course, we were in the middle of a pandemic and we had a lot of people coming from Toledo, from Columbus. They were finding us on Facebook. They were coming from Louisville. They were coming from Lexington. And much like the lady before me spoke to, these were large families. It was adult brothers and sisters. It was their children. It was cousins of theirs. And they were spending nights in hotels. Our restaurant was not open at the time, so they were dining in other restaurants in town. So our enthusiasm built, even though, and I am going to get back on my target here so I don't miss any of these points. Shortly after we did purchase it, the pandemic hit. We suffered setbacks of no contractors. building materials being limited and the price of those skyrocketing, government and licensing agencies closing down, making it difficult to establish our business. I personally lost my job that I intended to keep through the renovations, and as far as I could, losing a job running an HR department for a company that deals with affordable housing and speaks to what the lady ahead of me was talking about, that hopefully comes to fruition for Middletown. Upon opening, the restrictions continued. We were restricted to carry out only and no dine-in. That was then lightened, as everybody knows, to limited seating capacity and limited hours.
I hate to cut you off, but that's the 3-minute mark. And if you have more, we're happy to have you email it to us, but I can't, I have to keep everybody to 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. I hate cutting people off, just so everybody knows. It's not desirable. Next up, we have John Langhorn, and then following that, Dr. Claire Hendricks.
Madam Mayor, council members, my name is John Langhorn, 16 Sycamore Terrace, Middletown. I'm here in support of the authorization, ordinance number 02022-19, the authorization to enter into contract with AMS for the FBO office. I have been on the Airport Commission starting my 6th year, and I'm currently starting my 2nd year as chairman of that commission. When our current city manager, Mr. Palaniuk, first came to Middletown, I was fortunate to meet with him in the first couple of weeks to give him my vision of Middletown, kind of like 50-year resident and interested in the airport. And we sat down, and the one comment I remember from that meeting, took a bunch of notes, I don't want to manage the airport. It was the first thing he said to me, and we need to find a professional management team to manage the airport. We took that to heart. The city staff and the Airport Commission developed an RFI to go out and request for information to see who would be interested in coming in and filling that FBO space. We had 4 respondents, and out of those 4 respondents, we did face-to-face interviews, we did a scored evaluation, and there was one company that's well beyond the capability of the other 3, and that was AMS. This is an important part in the growth of the airport. We really need to do this as a next step in making this airport serve the city and the citizens in the best way possible. I would like to thank Kurt Yearout from Safe Skies Aviation, who has been the FBO fill-in and has done a great job under trying circumstances. That's all I have on the airport. You can ask questions of the process. I want to make sure that as a business owner in Middletown, I support wholeheartedly Holiday Hoopla. It was one of the best things that happened to the city since I moved back. And that's all I have.
Thank you. And finally, we have Dr. Claire Hendricks.
Hello, I'm Claire Hendricks, 5800 Watoga Drive in Liberty Township. My family and I moved here about 6 months ago from California, and we heard about the Middletown Hoopla through family and friends, and came out to enjoy an evening of just the festivities. I have a 4-year-old daughter, and we met Elsa and Anna and did the Whoville, and I don't think Santa was out because we came before, kind of on the soft opening, but had a really fun time at the. So I took our daughter around and enjoyed the igloos. It was a beautiful night, and the kids one in the ice skating rink, and y'all know everything that happened during the events and whatnot, but it was a really impressive event. It was geared towards younger children and school-age kids and high schoolers and adults, and it was really impressive as to the breadth of who was included in the festivities and who can go out and have a good time. And so I am here to show support for its continued existence, and it really is. It was something that brought us up towards this area, and just really had a great time with our family. So would love to see it back next year. I'd love to be able to go to it, continue bringing my family there, so that could, just would love to put my support for keeping it around. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, that brings us to council comments. We'll start with Mr. Muterspaw.
I just have a few things. First of all, I know it's been talked about 100 times, but the 3 minutes, it's just not enough for people to speak. And Karen, I know you had more to say, so if you would just email what you were going to say, and we can get it to the right people. I know it's frustrating with trying to get your thoughts in 3 minutes, okay? But, I support you guys. I know others do too, all right? So whatever you had to say, just shoot it to us. Second, good to see my former boss, Jim Burke, here. I just got a kick out of that. I wasn't always in government or policing, and Jim was my first boss at Consolidated Business Products on Vail. I was in high school. You didn't fire me, did you? You wanted to at times. But it was good to see Jim here. I haven't got to see him very much, so great to see you. Last, we had a strategic session this past weekend, Friday and Saturday. I don't think it's on YouTube yet on the council channel, but it was a great information gathering thing from staff and council. Since then, we try to put some stuff out about it. I've got emails about, the parks and, whether it's, all the different things we're doing, the Manchester, but I ask that you watch that. I know it's a lot, and also watch the Historic Commission. They came in today at 4:15. Watch that, because the information's, it's incredible to hear that, and that's how we get things done. But, our city manager gave some good indication on the whole pallet thing, which we're getting emails about. Ashley Combs did a great job with what she was doing. Same with Chief Burke, and Scott Tadish did a really good job explaining the park. So please go watch that before you go online and start posting all about stuff, because the details in there are really meticulous and they're very informative. So that'll help you kind of get an idea of what's going on before you go online and discuss it. Okay, that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Moon?
Yes, I had 3 items. First thing, I wanted to thank the students at John 23rd. We all walked into a nice little packet today of just encouraging, wonderful notes. So I wanted to thank them and the teacher that put them up to that, I suspect. So thank you. Second, wanted to welcome Missy Knight, going to be our next Director of Communications. I'm sure Jim's probably going to talk about that in his comments, but wanted to welcome you and say look forward to working with you and getting to know you. And then lastly, I just wanted to congratulate and extend just a heartfelt just congratulations to the Midi basketball team on a great season. Kelvin Moss in his first year on a great season. They upset Loveland, they upset St. Xavier, fell just a little bit short against Sycamore last weekend, but great first year for Kelvin, and looking forward to more next year. That's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Nitty?
Thank you. I just want to say I was so sorry to miss the February 15th meeting and the opportunity at that meeting to congratulate Sergeant Morgan and Lieutenant Tipton. So to both of you, thank you for your continued service to the city of Middletown. Additionally, I would like to thank staff for their hard work and time spent this weekend at the annual strategic planning session. I felt like it was very beneficial in creating a very clear vision for Middletown's future growth and the roles that we all play in growing our community. I would also, on that note, like to commend all of the citizens, business owners, and organizations who are working so very hard to build up and elevate our city. A rising tide will lift all boats, and I believe that we must choose to rise together with positivity and unity towards that brighter future that we aim to achieve. So thank you to all of you.
Thank you. Mr. Farrow?
Yeah, I have 3 things as well. So first off, I've had a lot of people reach out to me over the last actually about month and a half about all the cop cars they've seen around town and how much they're really appreciating that. And they feel like the community is a little bit safer for that. So appreciate Chief Burke and all the cops that are doing their jobs. Appreciate you too, Lolly, as well, all the firemen. Give them a special shout out today. Second thing, was just driving down Central today. I saw kids playing in their yards and saw people out walking. And, it's that time of year. It feels like spring's in the air. So just ask that, residents, if you see some trash on the side of the road, just, pick it up. Let's all do kind of our part to build this community that we're all working towards. I know personally me, I just have one of my contractors. I'm like, hey, start power washing all the sides of the houses. Let's start repainting the outside. I really want to put an emphasis this year on making the outside of Middletown. We all know on the inside we have great residents, so let's start building the outside and work together on that. Third thing, I guess I have four things, so I'll start with this. I actually left the strategic meeting and went to that basketball game, Tao, and it was awesome. It went in overtime. It was I got there at halftime. Went in overtime. It was sad to see them lose in overtime, but it was great to see. I remember going to basketball games in high school, and it was great to see just those types of things come back to Middletown. And then last, just want to remind everyone just to say a prayer and take a moment of silence, whatever you want to do for Ukraine. We're just privileged to live in this country, in my opinion, where we can go to bed at night and wake up in the morning and not have to worry about those things. I think that gets lost in the busy days, especially I know that council and all our residents face. So just, take a minute tonight and just think about that. So thank you.
Thank you. I have a few more things from my perspective to add. Councilor Muterspaw mentioned the citizen comment guidelines. I'd like to propose that maybe at the end of the next meeting, we have a workshop and we talk about that in a new business area, because we all, as a council, determine what those rules are, so we have the opportunity to change that. So maybe that's a new business item, and we try to do a quick workshop on it at the end of the next meeting. I'm trying to figure out the best way, but that may work depending on how long the meeting agenda is. So I'll talk to Amy and Jim about maybe adding that. Also, I know I'd mentioned we're going to do a veterans kind of potential board or committee meeting to circle up in the community about what we can do for our veterans collectively. It was going to be on the 3rd of March. We're going to delay that a little bit in favor of a couple more pre-meetings before that. There's a lot of players, and I'm hitting most of them, but I got a couple more I want to get to before that meeting kicks off. So we'll wait. I'll put out a new date for that one. Also, asked the city manager to provide council with a full public review of our public records request process. I know there's a lot of them floating out there, a lot of frustrations with that. So hopefully at some point here we can publicly review how those are addressed at the city level and what that process looks like so that our public can understand that. I'm also hoping Jim might be able to give us an update on the paperboard application at the state level tonight too, just as a tidbit, Jim. I got asked that a few times recently. The other thing I wanted, one of the best things I heard at the strategic planning session was that we have proactive code enforcement zones in Middletown and people who are assigned to those zones. So this is an indication of great progress in Middletown. If you didn't know, up until recently, everything was reactive. People had to submit a complaint before an ordinance violation would even get looked into. And now we have people who are actively looking for those ordinance violations and split up into 5 different zones. So that's really good news to me. I think we're putting our resources forward so that we can do what Mr. Farrell is talking about and get the outside of Middletown looking just like the inside. And that's all I had for this evening for my council comments. That brings us next to the city manager reports. Mr. Palaniuk.
Madam Mayor, members of City Council, good evening. I think you all know that recently we had our communications manager leave, take another job, and then we have had the opportunity as a result to solicit applicants again to refill that position. We were able to have a number of interviews, had some really good candidates, but we're really, really excited to ultimately find the candidate that we did who accepted the job, and she is with us this evening, Michelle Missy Knight, and if we could, I'd like to have her just come down and briefly introduce herself, but She has a fantastic attitude, great energy, and really great background in communication. So we're really excited to get her started. So, Missy, if you'd just come down for a second and just tell us a little bit about yourself, if you would.
Good evening. My name is Michelle, Missy. I go by Missy. That's how everybody knows me. Interviewing with Jim and the team, I was really excited, but I'm even more excited now. Not just because I was hired, but because I did a lot of research about Middletown. And I'm actually just really thrilled to be kind of on the cusp. It really feels like the city is on the cusp of something really great. And I want to be part of that. I want to be a part of telling Middletown's story the way we want our story told. And it's all about our narrative and being able to put that out there in a positive and exciting way for residents and for people outside of Middletown to get a great grasp of who we are. So I come to you from education. I was the or I guess I still am until Friday, public relations and community support for Mount Healthy City School District. And I've been in education for about 16 years. Prior to that, I worked in PR, marketing, television, whole gamut. I'm married. My husband and I have been married for 25 years. We have 2 grown children, and I have 2 awesome fur babies. So that's my life, and I'm really excited to get started. So thank you very much. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Also, I'll take the opportunity at this point to try to respond to Detective Wargo. He'd asked the question about the premium pay. You may recall that I think it was at the last meeting we had approved the MOU with AFSCME to provide premium pay in the amount of $2,496 for each of their 48 employees. Since that time, we have made a similar offer to the FOP at $2,496 in premium pay for each of their employees that would be part of the overall contract. And then in total, the city has just over $600,000 budgeted within ARPA for the premium pay. If we were to extend the $2,496 to each of our employees, it would be about $948,000. So we would have to amend the budget or find additional funding for about $348,000. And I believe we discussed this in the strategic planning, but since the question was brought up, I wanted to cover that. So that was the other issue. And unless there are other questions, that's all I had.
Do we know when that's going to be posted to YouTube? I haven't looked to see if it's there, but I would have expected to.
I guess I have to ask
I
Troy.
just looked, it's there.
Is it there? Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to the consent agenda next. Ms. Jenkins, if you're presenting that.
Yes. Okay, for your consideration this evening, we have to approve the City Council minutes of October 19th, 2021. Receive and file the following board and commission minutes. Library Board, April 20th, May 18th, June 15th, September 21st, October 19th, 2021. Civil Service Commission, December 16th, 2021. Confirm the personnel appointment of Michelle Knight to the position of Communications Manager in the City Manager Department Communications Division. You will, yes, you have a new agenda printed there in front of you. The item D was pulled at the last minute, right, as we were.
Yeah, the applicant had asked if we could postpone it.
Yes.
So moved for adoption.
Could you please call the roll?
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Mutersbaugh?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
And next we have motion agenda.
Yes. For motion agenda, we have to approve a contract with Champion Cleaning Specialist, Inc. of Cincinnati, Ohio, in the amount of $111,260 for the cleaning of the clarifiers at the water treatment plant.
Authorize entering into a contract with 2 different companies for mowing of various city properties for the 3-year period of 2022 through 2024.
Just a question. Do we do these individually? Do we normally, I'm asking Ben here, procedurally, or do we read them all at once? I'm asking because I know the mayor has a question.
Yeah, I have quite a few questions on motion agenda items, and I think we've done them individually.
Individual,
before.
sorry.
Yeah, I would vote on each item A, B, C,
Okay.
D, E separately.
This is just an unusually large number of motion agenda items, so I think it feels more like consent agenda, but.
Okay, we can step back to A.
Great, thank you.
So move for adoption on item A?
Second.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Authorize entering into a contract with 2 different companies for mowing of various city properties for the 3-year period of 2022 through 2024. Do you want me to read through each individual line? I'm happy to do so.
That's a legal question, I think. Does she need to do that?
No, it's on the agenda, which was published. I think that we're fine to just go with it as is.
Thank you.
So move for adoption?
Second.
Mr. Muederspaw?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Authorize a contract with Cully Contracting LLC, Winchester, Indiana, in an amount not to exceed $200,000 for the rehabilitation and relining of manholes.
So moved for adoption.
Second.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw?
Yes.
Concur with the removal of current members of the public appointed by the city manager for the Tax Incentive Review Council, the TIRC.
So move for adoption?
Second.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Concur with the appointment of new members of the public appointed by the city manager for the TIRC.
So moved for adoption.
Second?
I just want to comment on this one real quickly. I believe the 2 individuals being put forth are great members of the community. I would ask that we find 2 more. I know we aren't required to have that, but I think the TIRC had a good representation across the city, and I think we could use a little bit more diversification of different parties that have vested interests in the city. So I would just ask if that the city would look into 2 additional members. I know we're looking to refresh this committee, and I know we needed also to add a minority in there, which is great. I just think we could use a little bit more representation on there. So that would be my ask.
If 2 additional members were appointed or asked to be appointed to this board, we could address that at a later date as well.
I believe so.
Where there's a will, there's a way. We'll find a way.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Receive appointments from the mayor and city council to establish the members of Middletown's Community Reinvestment Area Housing Council.
So moved for adoption.
Second.
I'm not sure what we're approving here. This is a little confusing to me. I didn't put forth any names. Staff recommended people that I put forth, which I haven't done. I'm not sure what we're trying to do. I know we need to establish this committee, but staff made recommendations of who I appoint, didn't consult me, and I'm not sure if we're appointing people with this, because it says receive appointments, but I haven't made any. I guess that's why I don't know what this is.
And I guess we are trying to sort of introduce that these appointments be made. Staff had specifically recommended that the members come from the Turk, but obviously the appointments have to be made by the mayor, the city council, and the planning commission. So those appointments are entirely up to those individual groups or individuals. We put this forward to know that we have to get this started in terms of appointing a 5-member board of the Community Reinvestment Area Housing Council, and that our specific recommendation was we thought that they should come from the Turk, but obviously the mayor, the city council, and planning commission can make other appointments. So whether you make those appointments tonight or do it at a future time, we do need to make 5 specific appointments to create this council. It hadn't been created in the past. It needs to be. So this is the first effort to get that forward. This was a recommendation. Obviously, you may or may not take that recommendation.
So I'm not sure how this was going to accomplish anything as is, because we didn't name anyone. So if we said yes to this item, I'm not even sure what we're saying yes to, besides creating the council, which we need to do. I agree with that. But there's no actual, I mean, it says staff recommends choosing from the slate of Turk appointments.
I guess it would be appropriate for council to
what
decide the process that you'd like to use to make these appointments.
So maybe we need to have, as we normally do with board and commission appointments, a meeting prior to the next council meeting, 30 minutes prior, and we can do an executive session to discuss personnel issues and then vote in the motion agenda item for the next meeting, which I think still meets the deadline. Is that work?
Time isn't of the essence here, Jim.
End of March, it says.
Do believe maybe that Caleb from your office, who is really kind of the guy who gives us advice on all this stuff, may be available on Zoom, and I don't know if he's here. He would be the guy I would look to, because I'm just not that familiar with
I think he is. He's the 614 numbers that is there. He was texting me some, but not sure if that can be opened up to where the voice of God can speak or what.
I guess to speak
I think he's
to my own understanding as I was reading through this, I saw it as concurring with the Turk in what it says in the staff report. Because the Housing Council is required to annually inspect properties within the CRAs, these duties intersect with the mandate of the Tax Incentive Review Council, and that's why these members were selected directly from the Turk. That was my understanding as to why they were not individually selected separately.
That's the recommendation. Yeah, obviously you could vary from that. And I think if
What would be
Caleb's
the
there,
advantage or disadvantage from straying from that Turk, I guess is my question then.
There's far more names on here listed than the number of people we're appointing. So that's why I'm saying it's not a 1-for-1. I mean, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 names on there, and we're supposed to appoint 2 members appointed by the mayor, 2 members appointed by city council, and 1 member appointed by the planning commission. So this isn't even, I mean, I don't know who wrote this motion item, but I don't even know what it would have accomplished had we approved it. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, perhaps it would be helpful. Caleb had just texted that he can talk if he's unmuted. He can hopefully speak to this issue a little more clearly.
Okay, is city staff able to unmute him on the?
614 number.
hopefully.
There's a 614 number logged in.
Yeah.
Oh. You're not muted, supposedly, Caleb.
Is his volume on? Can you hear us now?
Sorry for the technical difficulties. That's a good idea. She was trying to be polite by whispering it to me, but we could have him call on my cell phone.
I was going to say
Put it on
speaker,
speakerphone.
but
So you guys are
Yeah,
all
that's-
smarter than me. Let me try that. I'll try calling Caleb.
Okay. I feel like we're on a game show or let's call Caleb.
phone a friend.
Yeah, phone a friend.
Phone a friend.
Hi, Ben.
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine. I understand you're on with council. I've been listening, but I haven't been able to speak.
Yep, so there were some technical difficulties apparently, but the question came up in blunt form of what are we really doing here? what is this and why do we need to do this now, and how is this to actually be done when the mayor has her appointing planning commission and so forth. So rather than just punt necessarily till our next meeting and have a potential council meeting beforehand with an executive session like we'll do on many board and commission meetings, we thought we'd ask. I know this is something that you and Chriselle have been working on, so what saith you?
Sure. So the recommendation here was just simply to, I think, utilize the existing folks who have who've been serving to, kind of do double duty. The reason that it makes some sense for individuals from Turk to be on the CRA Housing Council is that, one, the CRA Housing Council does almost nothing, and two, the people who would do the only thing that the Housing Council really does would have view of that if they were Turk members. So it seems to make sense, if one were to borrow a little bit of a citizen's time, that they, be able to, be in the same universe of work here. I think the Housing Council probably takes a total of 5 minutes per year, and Turk probably more like an hour per year.
Well, the Housing Council is supposed to actually go into and review each of these CRA locations, which I don't believe can be done in 5 minutes, respectfully.
Was there a
Regardless,
Yep.
That's not really the question. The question really is, who are we recommending take these appointments? And I don't want to do that without having discussed it in advance.
So,
There's more than 5 names on here, and we can't speak on behalf of the Planning Commission.
yeah, Mayor Condrey had a comment and then also a question. The comment had more to do with, her understanding that the CRA members are supposed to go in and inspect properties and make recommendations, which obviously can't be done in 5 minutes. That was her comment. And then the question was, this seems to be, and my apologies, I don't have the slate before me, but it seems to be it's not necessarily a one-for-one, TIRC versus CRA board. And then there's some appointing differences between the mayor, planning commission, and so forth. So I'm wondering, unless time is of the essence, if by chance we do get more full explanations of this, throw on a executive session at the beginning of the next council meeting, which will yet be this month, we can still wrap this up in time to have the appointments done beforehand, rather than trying to railroad this through now.
Sure. Yeah. So just a couple reactions. One, the composition of Turk and the composition of the Housing Council are both set by statute. You would not expect them to be the exact same composition as a number of elected officials are supposed to be on Turk. For example, the county auditors of the 2 counties, and a number of other people, representatives of school districts, et cetera. So Turk has a broader complement, but the people on Turk that are appointed by the city really are 2 people, which happen to be, the same people that might be available for the other board. So I think that was the logic behind pulling the 2 people from Turk who were appointed by the city and then moving them to do double duty. Also, that the housing officer is the party that's responsible for literally surveying each home or each building that is obtaining a CRA exemption. It would be unreasonable for a board or a legislative authority or a committee to be forced to actually survey every individual home. And so none of the major communities do that. They have their housing officer do that. That is then submitted by evidence to the Housing Council, who then takes time to either review, reject, accept the housing officer's review.
Respectfully, in his own words on page 3, he states that the Housing Council, one of the 2 priorities is to make an annual inspection of properties within the CRA.
Yeah, and I don't think taking that, even with your literal reading of it, that means that the board itself will go out and do that. It's that the Housing Council will do that, and then the board makes the ultimate call, just like when you review applications and it comes before council, it doesn't mean that you necessarily go out and inspect it yourself. I think to Cale's point, his thought is that's what staff does. The board does the meeting and approving. But again, if you're not comfortable with it, then I'm not comfortable with it. If we have time to wait on it, then why don't we do
I'm comfortable with creating this committee, but even if he was saying, which is not written in here, that we're specifically Verlena Stewart and Stephen Hightower were two of the members, there's still two by the mayor and one from the planning. I mean, it's just not written out. It's not complete. So if we had voted yes tonight, I don't even know what would have happened. Who would be on it? There's no clear answer to that.
Did Planning Commission already appoint one of their members to Turk at the last meeting? I thought that there was
This is to the CRA housing, the CRA committee, not to Turk.
Right, I'm just asking, did the Planning Commission did not make their appointments to either of these, or they did or not? I don't. They have not. Okay. I know they made some appointments, I wasn't sure.
We need to make sure that they're appointing this as well in their next, because they do have an appointee onto the CRA Housing Council, so.
Why don't we truly figure out who's on first, what's on second?
Yes.
Schedule however long beforehand, give you black and white answers to it, and then we can know who's doing what.
I think that's great. Can you make sure within that the timing works out?
Yeah, Caleb, we're just still having some questions and what was Planning Commission's role and what have they done? Is it okay if we schedule, council meeting with an executive session, much like we do with other board meetings for our boards and commission appointments, half hour, whatever before, which would be on the March 15th, I think it would be meeting. Are we still good with our deadlines? Just to get some more reassurances to council members?
Planning Commission, yeah, it's next Wednesday, so we need to make sure that they make that appointment at that meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So then we'll also have to get them information at that meeting as well.
Sure.
When is our deadline?
Ben, the only relevant statutory deadline is the 31st day of March that the city, not the housing council, makes a report to the state.
Okay. We will find a way to make it work in time for the statutory deadline, and if that means whatever we have to do with Planning Commission, we do, or we schedule a special meeting, there's got to be a way to make this work, where you all can feel comfortable with what your role is in your appointments before that deadline.
Second Wednesday of the month is Planning Commission, so they should have a meeting.
Yeah. That makes sense to me,
Yes.
conceptually. Am I missing something, Chriselle? Okay.
Great.
Then let's come back at our next meeting. We'll meet our deadline, I think, still, and we can go from there.
Just barely. We could have done this a while ago. Okay, let's do it. I'm good with that. Let's table
Very good.
this if everybody's, we need a vote to table it? We need a vote.
Because this is under the motion agenda, I don't see a need to pass some motion to table voting on some motion. I think we can just,
We do have
But I made a motion to approve, so
Oh,
I
yeah.
would remove my motion.
yeah, that'd be good enough. I didn't think about that part. Yeah.
Great, thank you guys, appreciate it. Whew, that was fun, okay. Who would have thought motion agenda could get so exciting? Okay, so that was item F, I believe, so we're ready for item G.
Okay. Authorize the transfer of the following city-owned properties through the City Side Lot Program. And just a quick note here, I was asked to pull off the 2106 Howard Avenue address. We received an update from Finance just before the meeting, and they are going to do some further review before bringing this forward on that item. The next one, parcel Q6532021000008, 1713 Fleming Road, sale price $500 to Shirley Sarver.
Second.
I know I had asked a question about this lot and its size. It's larger than my own lot that my house is on, which doesn't say a whole lot. But to me, it's a developable lot, and I know it's not anything and everything, but I just question the side lot program. It's a really large side lot, and if I know we're looking at updating that program and its requirements, and I just wonder if maybe this wouldn't be better tabled until we have the new program in place, just given its size. The ones that we have approved to date are much smaller. They're clearly not, no one's going to put a house on them. But that's my 2 cents on this. And there's no house on the other side of that lot either. So it's quite a large piece of land.
I was wondering the same thing. Are you getting ready to come down? I thought I saw Ashley like creeping up, like.
So
but if not, I'm not calling.
I've had a similar conversation with staff a couple of times, and they've expressed to me that the side lot program has been put on hold, but these applications came through before we put the program on hold and before we were really considering certain size lots for infill development. So, that's certainly up to us to decide whether or not we think that this particular lot is best suited for the side lot program, or whether we would like to hold on to it in the hopes that maybe it could be a developable land.
Yeah,
so, the side lot program is on hold while we are setting standards for what size lots and what type of lots are available for that program and not.
Yeah, and I was wondering, I don't know if staff can help me on this one or the next one if it's a sufficient size, but my question was, so if it does predate, as Ms. Nenny was saying, like, have people been mowing for the last couple years or months with the expectation that they would get the lot? And if so, I want to kind of honor those conversations, but if this is a situation where they just came in the last couple months and they haven't been mowing, then I think I might look at it a little bit differently.
Yeah, that does raise a good question.
To me, it's not necessarily the mowing part. I get that, but if I was living next to a lot of grass like that, I would mow it regardless of whether I expected to get it or not. But
I can speak to that briefly. The $500 sale price, the way that the side lot program is designed, is the cost of the lot is a $500 base price plus the last 2 years of maintenance for the property as far as trash removal or grass mowing. The fact that these are priced at $500 means that someone else other than the city was maintaining them. I can't speak to whether this property owner specifically was mowing it, but someone was mowing it, and so the city wasn't incurring that cost.
I'm curious in that case, is there some precedence or some policy that could reimburse if we decided not to sell this lot to them? Is there some form of reimbursement for that maintenance?
Not as far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
There's no history of it as far as my involvement with the city has been.
Yeah, because that's really the only, that's a factor that plays into whether or not,
From a real estate perspective, in that specific pocket, it would never make sense to, I'm all about redevelopment, I made that clear, but you could not make that feasibly sound to save that lot and turn it into a new construction home. So why not alleviate a liability? We can pay to maintain it, or somebody else can maintain it, or we can just.
Why is that the case?
Yeah, why wouldn't it meet the requirements for infill?
It's 0.23 acres is the size of
It would not,
that
and that
particular lot.
nobody's going to spend that in that neighborhood.
There's a new infill development just right around the corner. You can see the backside of it on Aberdeen when you drive down the street.
That's not.
I don't know. I'm just saying. That's just
know,
my observation.
Okay. I just disagree with that. I know the real estate. I'm not trying to. Yeah. That's a completely different neighborhood, though.
I guess I just want to make sure have we told these people who have been taking care of it, even if they haven't, that we're good to go on this? Have we, as the city staff, made promises that this is good to go? Because what I don't want to do is do that and then us come up here and say, well, we're not going to do it now.
I can tell you there's not been any explicit promises made to the property owners. They filled out an application. They requested that the lot be transferred to them for the sale price that we have listed up here. And they were all informed that it was at city council's discretion to approve the sale or transfer of any city-owned lot.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This part of Fleming is not by Wildwood Golf Course.
I understand.
trying to wrap
Yeah,
around my head around this, and I don't want to rush it, so.
I just don't know how comfortable I feel, certainly with our putting the side lot program on pause, you know, transferring any properties until we've really got that all figured out. That's my hesitation.
I don't know the size of the Hill Avenue lot, and I know we're talking about G right now, but it's all the same discussion, really. Does staff know that? I can look it up. I hadn't looked at that one. I know that that property owner had contacted us and expressed frustration with the process. I know she's been going through it for quite a while. I have, from what I saw, the back and forth with her, so I would have more of a tendency to give her the benefit of the doubt, having been trying to work on the side lot program for a little bit longer. I don't know if you have any further insight into that as staff, but I don't know when these people applied, how long ago originally, and that.
Now, with the Hill Avenue property, that has been someone who had been trying for a very long time.
Right.
And initially that they were deemed to be ineligible because they technically lived in a property, it's sort of a duplex next to it, and our specific requirements talked about a single-family home, so it was being interpreted as they were ineligible, but really, it's the property owner who lives there, so they should have been eligible, we think, so, but they have been trying for quite some time to acquire the lot.
I'm looking at the application date of the Fleming Road, which was February 11th, 22. I would, my preference would be, and I know, so we're not considering the Howard Avenue lot, but my preference would be to hold on the Fleming Road lot, not to say no to it, but to hold until we have our new program in place personally. And I'm not saying we won't consider it at that point, but I think it's a good thing that we're looking at a new program, and that would be my request. I don't really want to say no, but if we're going to take a vote tonight, I probably would, just because of the size of it and where it's located, and there's land next to it that's still open as well. As for the Hill Avenue one, I think I reread that whole chain, and I think that property owner has been working on this for a very long time, and I'd be more inclined to say yes to that. That's where I personally stand. I don't know if anyone on council needs more time to think about it, or if you're ready to. I know there's a motion and a second for G at this
I
point.
made the motion in the second so we could have the conversation, you know. 'Cause we
Yeah,
can't have the
exactly.
conversation if you
Yeah.
don't. I probably agree with the mayor. I would not say no, never, but if there's a chance for an infill, that would probably be my preference. I guess I'd like to just know if that's even possible, and maybe it's not, and if not, we'll come back in a couple weeks and do this all over again, and I know staff loves when we do that. But that's just my thought on Fleming as well. I'd hate to miss on the opportunity. It seems like we got so many infills going on now that I had never seen in the last 20 years, and if there's an opportunity, I'd prefer that to be the first choice.
So we have a motion and a second. With any other comments, if anyone wants to rescind either one of those, they can. Otherwise, it will go to a vote.
I'm probably going to rescind mine, but I'd like everybody to be comfortable with kind of.
Yeah, I'll rescind.
Okay.
So the goal would be to bring the Fleming Road one back after we have our program or updated program established. Great, thank you so much. Thanks for the good conversation, appreciate it. Okay, that brings us to H.
Okay. Authorize the transfer of the following city-owned properties: parcel number 065420320000174, 2210 Hill Avenue, sale price $500, to Miracle Hurston.
So moved for adoption.
Second.
Comments on this stuff?
Mayor Condrey.
Yes.
Mr. Farrell.
Yes.
Ms. Nenny.
Yes.
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw.
Yes.
Well, that was the most exciting motion agenda we've had in a long time. Mr. Yoder, would you like to present the legislation for us?
I would, yes. So you've got 6 legislative items on your agenda tonight, the first 2 of which are being proposed as emergencies. So before we get started, I just ask council to go ahead and pass a motion to waive the second readings and emergency provisions, specifically as to resolution number R 2020-07 and ordinance number O 2021-15.
I don't have the script in front
I
of me.
move to waive the charter provision requiring readings on 2 separate days and to declare R 2022-07 and O 2021-15 an emergency measure and read one time only. You're one by, Monica.
I was going to try to wing it, but you just jumped in.
Sorry.
Either would have worked, I'm sure.
Can I just clarify real quick? That is 2021-15.
Yeah, I
Is
saw that
accurate?
same question. Perhaps staff can speak to it. I think is that presumably came up, was initiated back in 2021.
We've
And
approved
maybe they
like
skipped
20 of
over
these.
it, but I'm not sure.
I don't think it's the same one. I think it's a new one.
I think
I'd-
it's probably a
In the
mistake. It should be
ordinance,
22-15.
It's stated 2022-15.
It should be 22-15.
22-15.
22. Yeah, it's a typo.
It is correct on the ordinance in our packet.
Thank you. I didn't even see that.
Should I revise my?
Yep.
Okay. I move to waive the charter provision requiring readings on 2 separate days and to declare R 2022-07 and O 2022-15 emergency measure and read one time only.
Second.
Ms. Jenkins, will you call the roll for us, please?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey.
Yes.
So first item is resolution number R 2022-07, resolution amending resolution number R 2021-55, authorizing a contract with the State of Ohio Department of Transportation for the 2022 urban paving program on a portion of State Route 4 from Titus Avenue to Germantown Road and declaring an emergency.
So moved for adoption.
Second?
Mr. Pelenick, would you like to comment on this one?
If there are questions, nothing new.
The second reading emergency, correct?
Yes, it is. Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Farrell.
Yes.
Second item is ordinance number 2022-15, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of aviation fuel from AvFuel and declaring an emergency. Again, this is a second reading.
So moved for adoption.
Second.
Mr. Pelenick,
If there are questions.
this is a first reading emergency, right?
This is second reading. It was first read on February 1st.
Okay, second. Okay, Ms. Jenkins?
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Abstain.
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Mr. Farrell.
Yes. Third item is ordinance number O 2022-19, an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing a contract with Airport Management Solutions to provide fixed base operator services at Middletown Regional Airport. This is a second reading.
So move for adoption?
Second.
Mr. Pelenick, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, this is the second reading. We had Airport Management Solutions representatives at our last meeting. I think you met them for the first time. We also talked about this quite a bit at the strategic planning session. So if there are specific questions, again, we'd be more than happy to answer them. But this would be a new contract FBO at the airport, $70,000 per year fee plus specific fuel fees per gallon depending on gallons sold, with total expenses estimated at $232,988. So with the fee, then it would be $302,988. The folks from AMS have a long history. They worked at Tupelo, Mississippi, Greenville, Mississippi, several other places. So we're kind of excited. We think they do a great job.
Okay. Mr. Muederspaw,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Abstain.
Mr. Farrell,
Yes.
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
All right, we are on to our fourth item, which is ordinance number 02022-20, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a grant agreement with Middletown Holiday Hoopla.
So move for adoption.
Second?
Mr. Palanick, did you have anything you wanted to add to this?
Nothing unless there are questions.
Mayor Condrey,
No.
Mr. Farrell,
Yes.
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Munersbaugh.
Yes.
Fifth item is ordinance number 02022-21, an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing a contract with statewide Ford Lincoln for the purchase of 10 Ford Interceptor utility vehicles for the Division of Police and declaring an emergency. No actions requested on this until the March 15th, 2022 meeting. And then lastly, you've got item 6, which is resolution number 02022-08, a resolution to provide funding to the Butler County, Ohio Land Reutilization Corporation in the form of a deposit for cooperative efforts between the city and land bank and declaring an emergency. Like the prior agenda item, no actions requested until the March 15th meeting.
Thank you. Mr. Palanick, you want to back up and speak to legislation item number 5?
Yes. Madam Mayor, members of council, as you might be aware, it's been really difficult because of the supply chain, particularly with automobiles, to actually find and get the police cruisers that we were after and actually had budgeted in last year's budget. So we have been sort of combing the entire country and finally, I would say, kind of got lucky, and through the contract with statewide purchasing, there is the opportunity now for us through statewide Ford Lincoln out of Van Wert, Ohio, to actually get 10 new Ford Interceptor vehicles. They would be $35,751 each. They are all replacing units that are well past their useful life. Any of the units being replaced will go for sale on GovDeals to the highest bidder. So we're just really pleased we were able to find these and hope that we'll be able to get them delivered and that something doesn't happen between now and the time we approve it. So, and the money is in the 22 budget, budgeted for the police department to purchase these new vehicles.
And then after these are purchased, we'll also have to go through the process of allocating financing to do the graphics and decals and all of those things.
The full outfitting, yeah, usually exactly, yeah.
And what does that usually run per vehicle?
Is Chief Burke here? The Chief knows.
And were we expecting all of those items also budgeted this year?
Yeah, Rex from the City Garage is working on that. We're going to put that out for bid process, and the cars have to be striped. We already have IT working on the MDTs and the camera systems for the car, which is also in the budget. So we have everything allocated. We just haven't had cruisers in 2 years.
Yeah.
So our fleet is it's pretty bad right now. We're trying to piece things together. So we were fortunate to find these cruisers. We're hoping to have delivery by April. We could have those out by May, we're hoping for.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Great. And Mr. Palanick, if you want to speak to legislation item number 6.
Yes, Resolution 08. The city has for many years worked with the Butler County Land Bank Revitalization Corp., and they oftentimes will get state grants to assist in demolition or remediation of blighted structures. And the way it has worked in the past is each individual participating municipality puts deposits with the land bank, and then those monies are drawn down as they're needed as they get combined with state grants or some of the funds that the state or that the county has. So it turned out from past efforts, we were in a deficit of $50,870.28. And so we realized that it was accounted for in 21. So of the $150,000 that's being allocated here, $50,870.28 is going to cover the past deficit. And then the remaining $99,129.72 will be going on deposit for new efforts in the future. So hopefully that will last for a while then. So that was the numbers and the reasoning therefore.
Great. No further comments. That brings us to new business. Do we have any topics for new business this evening?
You brought it up earlier. I just would like to reiterate what you said and agree with you on the public records request. There's definitely a disconnect in the city when citizens ask for information. And I'll tell you, I asked for stuff last year, and there was disconnect on that myself before I was on council. And that we lose total public trust when we take 4 or 5 months to get back information to the public. I mean, it's the public's information. So I want to make sure that we really push that and as a council stay on top of it. And if it means a workshop or helping understand what the requests are and how they're taken in. And I know, Ben, and we've had that conversation before too. So I just want to make sure that we as a council understand the importance of that, because it really is a killer to public trust when we don't honor public records requests, which are by law, we have to give those out, certain things. So that's all I have, Mayor.
I don't know if it's possible for city staff to do a presentation at the beginning of the next meeting, walking our citizens and council for that matter through the public records request process at the city, and who touches that? How do we're clearly missing a central clearinghouse because they're falling through the cracks. So where is that list that's maintained? And I would love to have a presentation about
And I think, if memory serves me correct, a few months ago, my colleague Brody Conover did a presentation on kind of how, when they're received, how do we review them? But I think it's almost more of an operational type
Yeah, this is an
issue
operational
that's going on that you
question.
want. Yeah, just trying to make sure I understand and get you what you want. It's less the physical act of, okay, how do we process this and cut through it for relevance and this, that. It's okay, where is it housed? What is operational? Whose office? Where's the spreadsheet on this? How can we do this better to not make mistakes?
And I would personally like if city staff is able to, I don't know, on a quarterly basis perhaps, but send council a list of all the public records requests that had been made and the date they were made and when they were fulfilled, because we need some accountability on that. I wish we didn't have to ask for that, but we need something to happen on that.
I'm just curious, what is the appropriateness of that? You know what I mean? Like, from a legal standpoint, what is the appropriateness of us having that list, and how extensive is that list as well?
I have no idea.
Actually, I may be able to offer some insight that may be helpful to this. I just found out today, because again, this has obviously been a topic of discussion internally. IT has found a particularly inexpensive software program that I think can be outward facing and allows those who submit them to also know where they are in the process and to check at any given time what's happening or that type of thing. So our goal would be to get that, to put that in place, and to have this work a lot more smoothly. So hopefully we'll be able to do that.
I think it would be great to get a presentation on that and see about implementing something like that.
And I think also some conversations worth being had, not to get too far ahead of this, is that there's different ways in which public records have been dealt with the city over time. Sometimes it's been okay, let's do it at a department by department level. And we'll train all those people, and they're the ones that are responsible for doing that. And then it's because they're the ones that know the records the best, right? In some senses, that makes sense. At other times, there's been the thought of, why don't we consolidate that into the law department so that we can make sure that we're all getting them, we're all processing them. But then at times, either they're not received by the law department, or we don't execute on them for a variety of reasons, according to plan, human error, mistakes, whatever. But the thought can be, okay, do we consolidate this operationally in one department, under the law department, or create its own office, whatever we want to do, or do we have it within each individual department?
Yeah.
There's some thought that can go in there, and there's benefits and detriments to doing it each way.
Would that software be able to sort of push those out to the different department heads if that's appropriate?
I think it does deal with the sort of assignment and the kind of, if you will, tickler file to say, yeah, this is here, it needs to be done, it gets to the right place. It has that sort of coordination, and it's my understanding.
And the public transparency portion could be huge. I don't know what the software does, but I know with some other entities as well, it's literally an Excel spreadsheet generally, or if it's one for that organization or if it's one for each department. And those can be put up on a website somehow or shared. They're public records. The requests for public records
are actual
themselves.
public records themselves.
Exactly. So there's a way to work through the transparency. And I'll be brutally honest, I think some of the issue will be limitations of staff time, ability, and the element of human error as well is factoring into this, to where I think if we have an Excel spreadsheet that's accessible by everyone, and then you go, where's my request? It's been on here for, I don't see it, or whatever. Hopefully that can help minimize the risk for human error.
We kind of got two discussions going. One is, how have public records been processed at the city as of late? Because that's a discussion I want to hear what's been going on. The other discussion is, how can we improve the process?
Bingo. Agreed in both respects.
I just want to make sure that we don't at the next meeting hear about how we're going to improve and not hear about what's been done, because I want to hear about why we're...
I think if you don't know how it's currently being done, you can't figure out what needs to be fixed.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, so.
I have two items on the point of this. I just wanted to discuss among us thoughts on publicly recorded boards and commission meetings for more transparency for our citizens. I know it'd be a little bit of work by the city having a, I don't know if we'd meet here for all the boards and commissions meetings, but I think something, I know especially we've had some recent, I don't know if you want to call it disagreements among what's going on in the commissions meetings, but I think it would be good for our citizens to be able to record that.
I agree. I would appreciate it even as a council member, because we're still not getting minutes in a timely fashion, and I'm not, it's just the nature of some of these boards and commissions. We can at least go see or participate and listen to what's going on. That would help us to make more timely decisions up here, and also may help with some of the minutes that are being written up, because it would help whoever's writing them up. They can go back and reference it, and they may actually help them as well. And I know it may not be feasible for every board and commission, but I think, we could probably make the list of the ones that are the most critical that we make happen.
A lot of them are already meeting here. Planning Commission already meets here. I think Historic already meets here. So, you wouldn't really be recreating the wheel other than to add an additional staff person from IT to make sure that everything is recorded.
Right.
And certainly with regards to the minutes, I think most of those minutes are being, we don't always have a staff person who's doing those minutes. Sometimes it's a volunteer member from that board who's actually doing the minutes, or, so, I think that certainly could help whoever that person is. But I think I would be curious to reach out to each of those boards and commissions and propose it to them and see, how they feel about it. Because, like Park Board, for example, is pretty small. We don't have a whole lot of people in attendance or interested in attending. We certainly discuss a lot, but I wonder, could it affect the productivity, or?
I think with the amount of dollars that we're
I'm just thinking.
We're looking at spending on our parks, that could be one that's
sure
another one.
Certainly coming up. More so.
I think that's all the more reason to record them if people aren't going to show up, at least. I know if I'm at the gym, I sit there and listen to, council meetings, 'cause that's what I do now. And if I had to read through everything, I just wouldn't have the time to. So I think it's going to be more productive for some citizens. Meet the people where they're at, I guess, is my thought process.
Yeah,
We talked about this several years ago, because it was a push I was trying to make as well, and specifically I was interested in planning, since that's probably the most important of the boards. No offense to anybody else on any other boards and commissions. And they had previously broadcast those on TV Middletown and YouTube, and I think what it came down to, and maybe we're in a different place now, is we kind of had one person doing that, and they would end up working a lot of overtime, and just the feasibility of the staff time. So, it's been 4, 5, 6 years since we had that conversation, so we can certainly revisit it.
And I also don't mind if there's a solution in place where they could be recorded and then posted within 24 hours or something, if the live aspect is more difficult on staffing hours, I don't know, but.
Yeah, I think that's completely reasonable, yeah. So my second thing, I guess, if we're going to move on from that, some sort of, and this is up for discussion as well, right now, as we're talking about the infill lot project, we have sort of an issue in that the minimum square footage built out in Middletown right now for a single-family home is 1,500 square foot, and it costs so much to build that, it's going to be hard to put 1,500 square foot homes on some of these lots. But if you get down to a 1,200 square foot home, and neighborhoods that match and have similar square footage properties, it's going to be a lot more feasible. I know it's come before Planning Commission years ago, and they didn't want to allow it. But with the quality of homes that you see different builders that are working on these infill lots right now, they have nice curb appeal. They add to the community values. There's a multitude of reasons to look at a text amendment, in my opinion, to go from 1,500 to a 1,200 square foot home minimum build out. So I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that and have a discussion about it.
I mean, I guess from an architecture review board standpoint, I can't remember if in the last 2 years of being on that board, if there's ever been a variance request for, or no, you're talking about increasing the size.
No, I'm talking about right now.
Decreasing the size.
Yeah, so right now it's 15.
So I don't think we've ever had I don't think we've ever had a request to go lower than the minimum, than the existing minimum. I mean, maybe I'm not recalling one of them, but.
Well, the house actually, one of the houses on Mormon right now actually is, because I don't know if Ashley has the power to. Do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, if you could, I mean, just because I know we can grant variances, so I'm curious about whether, whether that would be a better route or.
To Monica's question, there have been reductions in the square footage size, but they come through the Board of Zoning Appeals. So we have been seeing a few of those. And to talk to Zach's point, we did try to propose a text amendment last fall for reducing that square footage to 1,200 square feet. That was not well received by Planning Commission, and we were trying to do it specifically in our R3 and our R4 because that is about the size of the homes. They are closer to that 1,200 square foot. So from staff's perspective, that makes more sense to go that direction, but maybe specifically looking at zoning districts where that's appropriate.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like the idea of having specific zoning districts if it's congruent with the rest of the neighborhood.
Yeah, and with that, we also looked at minimum width and lot length. Also, with that, there were also other things. So I think, again, it's important to look specifically. Staff looked at a multitude of lots and tried to make sure we were proposing the right thing. And that, to Zach's point, that was similar, as well as lot sizes and a few other site development standards issues that we came up with, so.
What was some of the discussion? I mean, I guess this is where YouTube videos would be helpful if we could go back to that meeting and find out what exactly the arguments in the opposition from BZA and from planning were, so that we can help understand why they opposed that change.
Oddly, at the time, they thought we were working with a specific developer, which was not the case. We were actually ramping up for our infill construction program. And for that to go through, there was actually there's a clause in our non-conforming lots of record that say to build to the maximum extent possible to the zoning code requirements. So that's how our infill lots are moving forward, because we have that small clause in our non-conforming. But I mean, when it comes to other lots, that might probably not be the case that we can use. So I think it's important to get consistent around the city with our site development standards, not just maybe square footage, but across the board. So if you might want to consider that, if you're considering a text amendment tonight, authorizing staff to move forward to look at all of the site development standards for consistency.
Sure,
if you choose.
Yeah, I'm in favor of that.
Great. Any other questions for me? Thank you.
My last, are you done with your new business item?
Do I need to say anything else then?
Yeah, just so I'm clear, was that direction? So that, is staff going off to do that?
If we would like, basically with council saying that we would like staff to look into it.
Well, we can propose it so that way they can take it to the Planning Commission on the April meeting, because 30 days public notice.
I would like some more information, because I can really see it from both sides, but I don't live in that world, and I need to understand that more. So maybe that's.
Jim has some thoughts as well. I want to hear your thoughts, Jim.
No, I want to be clear that we do what you would like us to do, because I think in the past, for instance, as Ashley described, staff put forward that amendment. It went to Planning Commission. It was turned down. And we don't want to do it again because the history is it got turned down. But there is new council now, and it sounds like there might be a little bit more of an appetite for it. We're supportive of it. We'd like to see it. But if you don't want to see it or you would turn it down, it's likely Planning Commission would turn it down again. So that's why we're looking for direction from you before we prepare a text amendment.
Maybe you can just have
Yeah, I could propose, rather than, we'll be ready for the April 13th, but we would like to get it in front of council, maybe the research, let's see, April 13th. either your first meeting in April or our next meeting, we can try our best to try to put something together. That way you could say, yeah, we feel comfortable with moving forward with this text amendment. I mean, it's really your discretion, but we'd be happy to put information together.
I think Mr.
That's not
Palanick-
bypassing planning.
No, because per our Middletown Development Code, you can initiate a text amendment. That is your right. That's.
And yeah, that's where Mr. Palanick brought up the planning commission. I don't want to, I want to have their input as well. And that's, Mr. Moon brought up a good point. I don't understand the opposition that existed at the time.
And I could put that in the packet as well. I could put an explanation for you if that kind of helped with comfortability moving forward.
And I know it seems like this started like it just went 0 to 100 real quick. But,
Yeah.
You know, maybe instead of just dropping it on them at an April meeting, maybe we can have a conversation at an April meeting. Hey, this came up at a council meeting. Are your thoughts still the same? Council's having conversations about this.
I mean, we do have a meeting next week, as
Okay,
Ms.
okay.
Ms. Neese said. I mean, I'd happy to bring it up in new old business.
Yeah, I don't want to shock them all of a sudden. with the-
Actually, if you could send me some of the previous text amendments.
absolutely.
Since I am the council representative to Planning Commission, I'd like to have that, and maybe that's something that I can ask. Planning
Yeah, we can get that to you by the end of the week.
council
I'll put
rep.
something together for you, so you're
Yeah.
informed.
Yeah, definitely not trying to
No.
go around them. We want to work
No, not
in
at all.
conjunction with them, so.
And then if it's something that they seem to have maybe a change of opinion of, or would like to see, then I can communicate that back to staff.
Yeah, and I would welcome to hear from them individually on this and on their
Yeah.
thoughts. Just, we're telling Monica, maybe she can relay that next week. Or
Yeah, I'd be
Yeah, we'll
happy
make
to
sure
hear
they
it.
know
I mean,
that.
if- to anyone who's listening or watching, if you all have thoughts on Planning Commission about that, I'd be happy to entertain them at the next meeting.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would ask that council members have a look at the guidelines for citizen comments between now and the next meeting, and perhaps at the end of next meeting in new business, we can just discuss these guidelines, and if this council still wants to abide by these, or if anyone wants to propose any different changes, we can have a conversation about the citizen comments and what we feel is appropriate, since it's a consensus among council.
Mayor, my question would be, I guess, because I feel like we just did this like a year ago, if there was any specific issues that, you know, as you're requesting us to look at this again, if there were any specific issues that you had with.
Yet, my issue is we have 2 new council members, so.
I thought maybe it was the timing. Or
No, it's,
My issue is just, and I could be totally wrong, but I just think 3 minutes is, even 4 would be better because, and I know some people say, well, if you give them 4, they'll try to go 5, but man, 3 minutes is not a lot of time. And I get it if there's like 25 people up here talking, I do. When there's 3 or 4 or 5 people, whatever, I mean, it's just like we're cutting people off and they get up there and they're speaking from the heart. And it's hard to public speak for people who don't do it much. And to get up there takes a lot of courage. You give them 3 minutes and boom, you're out. I just don't understand it. And I know you guys have been here longer than I have, but I know in my former career, I'd get up here and I'd speak, I had all day, but the average citizen don't have that. And I know we had talked about, well, you know, they can send stuff in or they can do whatever, but it's hard to get up there. Most people are leaving work, coming straight from work to here and trying to talk. Sure. That's all I'm saying. That's just my opinion. So I wish we could give people a little bit more time, even if it's 4 minutes. I don't know.
Yeah. To that amount of respect too, I think, you know, we do have the deadline of 5 o'clock too. They have to be here by 5 o'clock. If they turn their comment card in late, then they're not considered.
I think 5:30.
5:30, sorry.
I agree with that. I do. I agree with that.
So, I mean, just those are some of the parameters that we kind of want to look
I
at.
have no problem with
The
that.
other thing that was
I
brought
just
up.
wanted to sort of get a feel for where everyone was at with that before we get into the discussion.
The other thing that was brought up in the past was we've now limited to a total of 60 minutes. I know I previously mentioned that if people are willing to stick it out to the end of the meeting, that I would be willing to listen to anyone above and beyond the 60 minutes. Now, there's so much emergency legislation anymore that if we wait and they're wanting to comment about an emergency legislation item, they're not going to make it. But if someone sticks the meeting out, that would be one of the things next meeting that I would bring up. I would be willing to listen.
Well, and that's why I think I want to hear what Tal and Monica and you have to say about it as well, because you guys
we
have
got
been on
to be
council.
where we're at.
Yeah, and so I just think it's really hard for people to get up there and talk.
Sure.
And they spend their first 25 seconds saying they're nervous. They got to they forget their name and address, and it cuts. So that's how I'm looking at it.
Okay.
They're here, and I think we should afford them that. That's, my opinion.
One thing I also try to, on my timer, I try not to start it until they've stated their name and address for the record, because that's a bumbling issue and it has nothing to do with what they're coming up there to say, so I would.
I agree with that, yeah.
Okay, so we'll plan to talk about that. So if maybe we'll have Amy send everybody the guidelines again, so you can all see them and review them and be prepared with what your recommendations are.
So are we taking like a half an hour before the next meeting to discuss that, like a work session?
We're already doing a session, I believe, for the board and commission. My proposal would be to bring it up in this part of the meeting at the end, just so we're not coming up, but I'm open. If you guys want to meet earlier before the next meeting, we can do that. I just think sometimes we just keep stacking the meetings prior up. It's one under the other, the meeting.
So that'll be at the end of the meeting as a work session. I'm just trying to clarify.
I would prefer to do that than the stack two before, personally, but I'm okay with whatever.
I'm good with whatever.
That's fine.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, with that, we have one last agenda item, and we will adjourn following that executive session under the authority of ORC 121.22G1 to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official. Do we have a motion to move to executive session?
Move forward.
Do we have a motion?
Adoption.
Second.
You do it? You didn't? Okay. I missed it. Ms. Jenkins, you please call the roll.
Ms. Nenny.
Yes.
Mr. Moon. Mr. Munerspaw. Mayor Condrey.
Yes.
Mr. Farrell.
Yes.
Okay, with that, we will adjourn following that executive session until the 15th of March at, well, as of now, it'll be at 5:30 p.m. here in council chambers, but I anticipate we may start at 5 or something a little before that for an executive session about the boards and commissions. So to be determined on that. Until then, blue skies over Middletown.